John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. It's Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night with Ben Stowe, and the man is here. Good evening, Ben.
Hey, John, how are you?
I am well. It is good to have you back this week.
It is good to be back, if only for a day.
You have been traveling a lot.
Yep, back on the road tomorrow. But, this is that time of year. It's football season's in full swing, and I guess I'm grateful to have places to go. It was nice to be home, first day of school. Saw my kids go off to school again for another year. Of course, that means fall is here, and that means it's going to start getting cold around here in Minnesota, so I'm starting to insulate a little bit.
Getting that nice little 5 o'clock shadow. Is there something going on there?
Yeah, this is more like a Tuesday shadow.
Yes.
Takes more than one day for me to grow that.
I know what that is.
So I'm hoping, by the time winter rolls around, it should be all right.
It'll be a woolly mammoth there walking around.
Grizzly Adams.
It'll be awesome. So T-shirt. Let's take a look at our T-shirt, and then we're going to jump into the. You mentioned the football season. We got some stuff to talk about that, but let's talk T-shirt first. What do you have for us tonight?
Well, I've got several variations of this one, but it just never really gets old. For my Star Trek fans out there, resistance is not futile. So there you have it.
So Star Wars fans, we love you. Star Trek fans, we love you. If you've got a shirt that you think that Ben should wear on one of the upcoming shows, send him a message, Twitter, #NLFXBen. Get in touch with him, get him a T-shirt, and he'll put it on for one of the shows and send a shout-out to you.
Oh, maybe this time of year it should be like a sweatshirt or something,
There is that. There will be snow shortly.
It's a little chilly. I got to say, though, I came back after 4 weeks on the road, and I turned on my office light, and there sitting on my keyboard was this. And a really nice card from my friend Travis Cowger, and I tell you what, that just really melts a guy's heart to know you got friends out there that are thinking of you, and you come back and you see something like that, a nice, well-written card, and so I appreciate it. I wanted to give him a shout-out. So, Travis, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, very good job. Good job, Travis. Because, you can't
go wrong.
You can't go wrong sending Star Wars toys, I'm saying.
I really can't,
So tonight we're going to talk about wireless and some applications that you've been running now that the football season's in kind of full swing.
Yeah, and we're gonna correlate these to DJs too, and we're gonna make sure they come up with some relevant stuff. It's all largely occupying the same space and using the same methodologies. So we're gonna take some examples of how it's done on the highest levels, and then we're gonna dial that right down to the DJ who's doing any event, and hopefully give you some good tips that'll make your wireless very reliable and a little less painful.
There you go. Let's start off. I want to put this picture up, Ben.
Okay.
I'm going to put the first one up showing you getting on the airplane. It's kind of a common sight, maybe not exactly this way, but tell us a little bit about this one.
I guess I am on a lot of planes, but anytime I get to fly on a private executive jet, it's always better. So I was on my way to work the college football national championship game, and was able to fly private, and obviously, you can't beat that. You leave when you want to leave, and just obviously it's a lot more comfortable ride. So don't get to do it all the time, but I like it when I do.
Well, let's just pop over. I think I've got a picture from the national championship game right here. I believe that's going to pop up. There you go. You're right in front of the billboard there.
Yeah, that was the first year I'd done the national championship, and I've done 3, and it was interesting how many pictures I took the first year, and then how few pictures I took the next 2 years. The work, I think part of it, really took over. The excitement kind of wore off, but it was really exciting. That's a pretty awesome honor. I was kind of blown away that I had the opportunity to do that not once but 3 times, and we'll see if there's a 4th. I don't know. The stress is starting to take center stage now. It is a very stressful gig.
So now, Ben, the next one we've got the NLFX antennas, I'm guessing, in front of the little LED screen up there, talking about the national championship. What did you do at the national championship?
Took pictures.
Okay, that was year 1. Year 2 and 3, you must have done something else.
That's right. I'll tell you what, that part doesn't get old. There is some stress to it, but it is just a great sight when you see your logo on that stage, and I had to kind of be cheesy and take a few pictures, and I had to do that. What I did though was I coordinated the radio frequencies. There was about 152 of them, I think, all told, but coordinated frequencies for things like the coaching intercoms, stadium, sideline media, the referee wireless, basically any wireless, IFBs, parabolics, stadium security, basically anything that was wireless within a certain range of the spectrum was, I was my deal.
I'm gonna pop the next picture up here, Ben, where we've got you're the man working there, and it looks a little cold.
Yeah, that particular gig there was a little chilly, and that's the thing about working these college games that I think people don't really think about is a lot of times I'll watch the sunrise in the stadium. I'm there 5-6 o'clock in the morning sometimes, making my list and checking it twice and making sure that we have a trouble-free afternoon. And it was a little chilly that morning.
Yeah. So now that's you're down on the sidelines with that. I'm going to pop up the next one now. I think, yeah, we're at Iowa State, I believe it is. Kind of tell us a little bit about this. We must be up in a press box.
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. We're actually in one of the radio broadcast booths looking down. And I think this picture is a great illustration of some of the distances that are involved. That, obviously from that booth to the sideline, and you're going over the heads of 60,000 people with that radio antenna. And maybe from that booth to the opposing sideline, we're talking about some pretty substantial distances. And yet, we can make these things work pretty reliably, for broadcast and that sort of thing all the time.
So as we're looking at this shot down at the field there, must have had some totes down there as you're getting ready to set up?
Well, you could call them that. They're equipment trunks, and they're probably each one's 300-400 pounds. They're pretty good sized. They look tiny in the picture, but I think that just gives you a sense of the perspective that, in real life, these things are very large trunks and transport cases for our equipment, for other football equipment, that sort of thing.
So the picture with the two guys here getting ready to string some wires, that's the gear that we were looking at from up on top.
Yeah, and you can see that case next to one of those guys. It's a two-man lift, as they say.
Oh my! So distance-wise, that could be easily a couple hundred feet then from the field level up to the press box.
Easily, a football field is 100 yards. That's 300 feet. Going the lengthways. So that just gives you kind of a sense of, some kind of a measuring stick to use. That we can easily be talking several hundred feet.
Wow. In
a very congested RF environment.
For sure.
I actually got some screenshots that I took working a college game this past weekend, and we'll take a look at those after a bit, and we'll kind of see how we look at what's out there and how we make sure that everybody's stuff is working.
Yeah. We've got the picture with you again, looking all dapper in your sweatshirt here on the sidelines. Now, as we take a look at this, now you've got a lot of electronic equipment there. Can you walk us through a little bit about what's happening with some of that equipment that's with you in the picture?
Well, the stuff that I'm with is the coaching intercom systems. That's the exact same system that they use in the NFL. It's the Telex BTR1 Lombardi system. And basically what you have are some really fancy, wireless intercoms, with high-level encryption. You're talking some pretty industrial-grade technology there to facilitate good, reliable communication between the coaches upstairs and the coaches on the sidelines with each other and back and forth. And having worked many games, I've listened in on many headsets. And admittedly, I don't know as much about football as a lot of people, but I've learned a lot about how critical it is to be able to make those calls immediately. As personnel changes are happening and coaches are taking an assessment of what packages they're seeing and what personnel to put on the field and what formations to call. There isn't a lot of time for do-over. It really has to happen right away.
Yeah. Very nice.
Particularly at the collegiate level. Particularly as you go up in the level, the stakes get higher. Everything moves faster.
Yeah, communication and everything would have to be indeed that. Yep. Let's take a look at the antennas there now. Since this was for the coaches, are those antennas kind of a directional antenna?
Absolutely, yeah. And you'll see they kind of look like sort of like a football shape, maybe, or a squished stop sign or something.
Let's go to a little bit closer picture. We'll pop back to the national championship one so we can get a closer look at it. Go ahead now. Walk us through that.
That picture never gets old, really.
Not really.
So we can just leave that up all day. Yeah, those are basically designed to pick up on the sidelines. Your coaches are primarily going to be, within about a 5-yard width, from the sideline to the retaining wall, and they're going to be walking about from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line, and we have to make sure that anywhere they go, even in the midst of very, very large human beings, that signal is, reliable. We'll take a look at here in a little bit what effect humans have on radios, and I think you'll have a greater appreciation for that. So just kind of file that away in your memory bank. Remember, you got 100 guys on that sideline. Probably every one of them is over 200 pounds, and many of them are over 300 pounds, wearing gear and whatnot. And we have to be able to have our coaches right in amongst those players so they can coach, but still be able to have good, reliable two-way communication to and from them.
Let's take another look at a picture. I believe this would be from the press box. And we're seeing an antenna similar, but not the same as what we've just been looking at. Kind of walk us through what we're looking at here.
Well, you're right. It's very similar. That particular antenna looks kind of like half of what we just saw. And that's really, in effect, what it is. It's designed to pick up in one direction only. We kind of focus, think of it as like a lens or a reflector, maybe, as an example. But it allows us to pick up the radio waves or transmit radio waves in that direction and not others, which is, very important when you're trying to get the most gain you can from that area and also not pick up noise from elsewhere.
Do those antennas work somewhat like a we'll call it more like a spotlight, or would they be like kind of a little bit of an angle with a minimal flood where the angles or the broadcasting gets wider as it goes farther?
Well, both. Those would be more like a directional flood. But we have another antenna we'll actually look at here later in the broadcast. I've got one with me that actually is called a beam. That's the proprietary name that the manufacturer gave it. We'll talk about what it really is. And that's another focus type antenna. So they're not a laser beam by any means, but they are just kind of more generally effective in that area.
So that was kind of a look at some of the football things. Now, Ben, what have you got next to you there tonight?
Well, I got a whole bunch of toys I dug out here. I've got kind of an array of different antennas, and then I've got a rack of in-ear monitor system here next to me. This is my spectrum analyzer up above here. We'll take a look at some screenshots from that after a bit. It's what gives me I guess a peek at the otherwise invisible. Radio waves, we can't see them, but they're very much there, and this makes them visible for us so we can see what's going on. And then I've got a few other antenna options up here. We might as well just kind of kick off with this one. What we see here is what you saw in that press box window pointing down. And basically it's directional this way. So if I wanted to pick up you, that's what I would do. I'd just mount it on a mic stand or whatever, and I'd aim it, in the general direction of where you are.
Sure.
What I want to do, though, before I continue on this is I want to talk about monopoles and dipoles and collinears. And one of the things, I don't know how well you can see in the video, but there's these stripes on the antenna. Is that showing up at all?
No, not really.
Okay, well then, viewers, you just need to go buy one from me, and then you can see the stripes.
Yes, and that's a great reason to buy it.
Yeah, you want to see it, don't you?
Everyone's like,
they're just lining up. They're flocking to throw their money.
Honey, get my credit card. I need to see the stripes.
Shut up and take my money. Well, let me tell you what they are, these stripes. Let's start with an antenna that I think almost every DJ is familiar with. Just a little short dude here.
Yep.
And this is a quarter wave antenna. It's a monopole. And it is tuned, as the name implies, to a quarter of the wavelength. And these antennas are unique from dipoles. And this is going to get nerdy here, but you would expect that, right?
Exactly.
Nobody surprised? All right. Hearing no objections.
Yeah, I don't see any hands.
This because it only has one pole, a monopole, has to use the ground plane of the device as sort of a collector, if you will. It has to be attached to the to like the rack mount of the or the chassis of the receiver or the transmitter in this case,
sure,
in order for it to work properly. So when I see people who take and run extension cables from their mics and then put this on the side of a wooden rack or something, I mean they're just absolutely devastating their reception. They're handcuffing their system and throwing it in the water and making it swim.
Oh my!
It might still pick up something, but boy, you're really compromising its ability to do its job. If you want to remotely mount your antennas, then you need something that's what they call a flexible ground or a half wave, and a half wave is a dipole. And we're going to skip the difference between monopoles and dipoles because that's where we'll lose everybody. But first thing you'll notice is they're longer. And these are also tuned, and they've done us a favor here. On these, you'll see that one is green, one is red, and one is yellow. The other thing you'll notice is that they are the same length. So you'd say, well, how are they tuned? Well, the actual conductors inside are different lengths. So they are, in fact, different. They just decided to go with a common housing style. But anyway, this is an example of a flexible ground antenna where you could mount it anywhere. We can mount it on a sheetrock wall and run a cable back to the antenna combining system, for example, or the receiver or whatnot. And then we have some close cousins here with the half-wave collinears. And these are a good example because not only do they have the little colored stripes that show us that they're different, but you can see very plainly that they are different lengths. And again, these are, in fact, I don't know how many I can hold at a time. Let's see how good I am. There we go. You can see the different colors and the different lengths. These are all frequency dependent. And, it's more important on your transmitting equipment than your receiving equipment. But for the sake of argument, let's just say it's important to have the right antenna for your frequency, plain and simple.
Sure.
Again, if you want to give your system the best possible chance for success, use the right stuff and use it correctly. I wish that were common sense, but
not so much, unfortunately. Now, Ben, you were talking about the different colors and they being tuned differently. What happens if you would use the wrong tuned antenna with your system? Say if you needed a yellow and you were using a red, what would happen?
Well, simply not going to perform optimally. These antennas essentially resonate, to the frequency of the radio wave. Just coincidentally and for fun, the half-wave dipole was invented by Heinrich Hertz, who, of course, his name we use to measure frequency, Hertz. So, having, they wouldn't resonate to the right wave. They're a half wave, and so they're the wrong size, and it's just not going to perform as well as it ought to.
No.
And I think it's important to note, like I said, using the right stuff and using it correctly is going to give you the best chance. We are the bottom of the food chain. Maybe we'll talk just a little bit later on about, the FCC and where we rank and where we live. But bottom line, we are the bottom of the food chain. And, it's up to us if we want to have good, reliable wireless communications. And it's incumbent on you, the viewer, to understand these things to the best of your abilities and use the right equipment and employ them correctly because your clients are paying you good money to achieve those results.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on those sidelines. That's why you're in the banquet halls. We are the professionals who take people's money to accomplish this task that others think is wizardry or alchemy, and it's up to us. So there's my soapbox.
Yeah, and the little soapbox there for us.
I'm not apologetic about it.
No, and you're absolutely right. Those are things that, as professionals, we need to know at least enough to be able to do the job and do it well.
Yeah, the Wild West of wireless is really over, I think. The set it and forget it or the easy button days are probably behind us. It doesn't have to be a terrifying world. Again, good practices and good equipment will solve a lot of your problems, but a fundamental basic understanding will go a really long ways.
Yeah. Cool. So you were going to be doing some analysis of some audio signal, or what were you you were talking about something on the top there?
Well, let's look at some more antennas real quick, just for fun.
Oh, okay, you got more. I'm sorry, I didn't.
I do.
I did not know. I thought we had exhausted the antenna world.
Oh, heavens no. Now, this antenna here is kind of a funky looking deal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but sort of reminds me of AT-ST Walker from Star Wars. Maybe that's just because I'm somewhat borderline obsessed with Star Wars. I don't know, but you know.
And Star Trek, and Star Trek for you fans out there. Just...
Not really so much, yeah.
Oh, here comes a hate mail. Remember, #NLFXBen.
I was just recently in Riverside, Iowa, which is the future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk. So there you go. In 2228, Captain James T. Kirk is born in Iowa. He just works in outer space. Star Trek fans, you'll get the reference. You're welcome. Yep. Moving on. Let it go. All right. This is a proprietary product from a company called RF Venue that specializes in radio frequency stuff. You know, they make some very cool stuff. I'm glad we sell them. You know, they have some pretty innovative solutions. And this is what they call the D fin, or the diversity fin. We still have some diversity, dipole antennas here, and we also have our log periodic array. So, which basically those stripes I was telling you about are a logarithmic array. I don't know where they really are. I'm just kind of pointing in the general direction. But they're a logarithmic array of dipoles laid out on this. And then one more. We talked about the spotlight.
Actually, Ben, that last antenna you had, that what is the pattern of pickup with that particular antenna? Because we talked about the others were being kind of directional in a. It is
still directional. It just adds a little bit more. It gives us that diversity of the opposing poles.
Okay.
And the other nice thing about it is you would need 2 of these for a standard diversity wireless mic system, whereas you only need 1 of these, which is another nice thing. You can just mount it to your mic stand, and there's a couple of connections inside here.
Gotcha.
And you put it up, and off you go. And I've sold quite a few of them to DJs, and they all seem to really like them. I think the cool factor is there too. And then this one is called a helical antenna, and we can't see what's inside because they protected it in this transport case, but it is in fact a helix, a spiral, if you will.
Okay.
And that gives us a very focused pickup pattern. This is what it looks like when it's not in transport mode.
When it's activated.
Yeah, there we can say it's activated, exactly. You see, there's our pickup patterns, very directional. And I use this one very frequently for in-ear monitors when we're doing artists on stage.
Interesting.
So we're obviously, transmitting stereo signals there, and we want those things to be very reliable. We don't want dropouts. Need the artist to, be able to hear what's going on and have a good performance.
Now, will you, in a situation where you're doing the live sound like that, will you use one of those antennas, or do you need to have a couple of those?
It depends on the stage. For most of the stuff that I do, just one. Okay. For me. So, cool. Can get away with one. And the other thing here, looking at, this is a rack, speaking of in-ear monitors, this is a rack of in-ear monitor transmitters. And here we can see my connections where I would come from my snake, or my stage box, from my mixing console, my monitor desk, whatever. I can go into the rack. And then I've got my 4 in-ear monitors here. And then I've got this device here. And what this does is this consolidates the transmit antennas for these 4 devices into a single output. And then I would just run a cable, a proper 50 ohm cable. It's not the same as the stuff you use on your cable TV, 75 ohm coax or whatever. No. I run that cable to my CP beam antenna, and then I can have this where I want it, put the antenna where I want it, and only have to put up one of them for 4 or 8 or whatever, however many of these I want. In this case, we've got 4 racked in here. Another cool feature about this, too, by the way, just for fun, John, is this antenna combiner also powers those units. So It actually powers them through the antenna cable. It's a very slick system.
Interesting. Now, what type of application would you take this in this particular unit that we're looking at?
Well, something like this I'd probably use on a stage, where I have performers that have in-ears in their ear. I could have 4 stereo mixes here. So 4 different artists could each have a stereo mix. There are bigger variations of this for tours and things like that. Just more transmitters. When you get into your bigger shows, you get into things like cue packs and that sort of thing, where non-artists are still listening and they have their cues being given to them and whatnot through IEMs and that sort of thing. We also use these IEM transmitters. You and I did a video using these for wireless speakers for DJs. Yeah. You wouldn't need a rack of 4 and you wouldn't need the antenna combiner, but we can think about this in reverse too. If these were wireless mic receivers, we could still have an antenna combiner. It's a different one because it's receiving, not transmitting, but functionally and fundamentally it would look the same. And then we would just have 2 antenna ends, and those would come from either something like my D-fin or a pair of half waves or a couple of log periodics or whatever. That would then allow me to have a large number of receivers and still only have a couple of antennas. For example, those antennas we saw with the NLFX logo on them, they're feeding a rack of 10 Coach's intercom systems. So there's 10 Telex BTR systems in that rack, and each one only has 1 transmit and 1 receive antenna.
Wow. At the top, what do you have there?
At the top. Where at the top? Oh, here?
Yeah.
Well, this is cool. This is that thing we were talking about. It's a spectrum analyzer, and it allows me to see the spectrum.
Yeah.
Let's take a look. If you want to pull that up real quick, I think I've sending you a feed of that. Okay, so what you see here is this is the screen that's connected to that box, and I've just kind of picked 600 to 639 megahertz, and what we're going to do is we're going to just start scanning this. It takes it a minute, it has to think a little bit, and then it's going to start scanning that part of the spectrum to see what's out there. Here we go. And you will start seeing a gray line pop up here. That's the live trace, and then it will store the maximum trace in red, and then it will show our current trace in green. So we have a chance to kind of see 3 things there. We see that trace right there. And we see some spikes, and we might think that there's actually something there, but I've got this set to auto ranging, and if we look, those are only at minus 94 dBm, so they're really just part of the noise. There really is nothing there. And to illustrate that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on a wireless microphone pack right now, okay?
Okay.
And we'll see this all of a sudden, see a big jump as the trace went by it, and we'll let the trace run by a couple times here to, there it goes. See, now basically it's smashed everything else down to below the white line there, and that white line is where I have said, okay, anything below this white line, I don't care about it.
Sure.
At all. And what we see is a very defined spike where this is, but then we see a few other spikes, and we also see kind of a hill going up to and from the spike. And this transmitter has simply raised the RF noise floor all across the board. And that's one of the things that people talk about, particularly near coasts, where you have a lot of maybe ship radios or, the Navy is jamming stuff. They say, well, it's not even anywhere near my frequency. How could it be affecting me? Well, it's just raising the whole noise floor. It's just raising stuff up all around. And the higher power this is, and this is a very low power, inexpensive wireless microphone. The more powerful those transmitters are, the more they're going to affect these things. Now, there's ways of making them more accurate and that sort of thing. That obviously is affected by price. I mean, there's no free lunch, right? Radios are just not radios. There's just no 2 ways around it.
Sure.
There's a reason that these Coach's intercom systems are, $80,000 or so. Anyway, so what we see here, we've got this mic system transmitting, and the red trace is the maximum trace, green trace is the last trace, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this pack behind me. I'm just going to put my body, my skinny little nerd body, between the receiving antenna of my analyzer and the transmitting antenna of this radio pack. Watch as that trace goes by. Look at the difference that made. Can you see that, John?
Looks like it's gone down a little bit, but it's
gone down quite a lot. See where the green line is relative to
there.
the
We go. There we go. We just saw it go down. Oh yeah.
Okay. Maybe a little bit of lag with the Skype feed, but
yeah. Wow.
That is the same distance from the antenna as it was, within maybe a few inches. The only difference is it is just behind my leg, basically. Here, I'll move it back out, and of course, give it a couple minutes for the feed to catch up to you and for the trace to go by.
Now there, it started to go up.
Yep, and once it makes another sweep by, it should be all the way up.
Yep, there it is. Wow, that's pretty impressive that just your body in that short of distance could make such a huge.
Yeah, and now we can imagine at distance. And so again, we talked about those football players. We talked about all these kinds of things. Being a factor. That's something good to know. That's why we talk about line of sight is always best.
Yeah.
Would this mic still work? Oh, absolutely, it would still work. You would still hear it. But again, what we don't see, without a spectrum analyzer is how close we are to failure, perhaps.
Sure.
Down below, you can see where it's starting to make what's called a waterfall, and that's where it's going to kind of track the radio over time, as it were.
Okay.
So actually, this with only one transmitter, it's not going to collect a lot of information. So let's go to some screenshots that I took while I was in an environment that has a bit more. I'll turn this guy off. Okay, now what you see here is I've just kind of expanded the waterfall window on this, and we see my trace window up above, and it's actively tracing. But down below you see our waterfall, and we can see, as you look at the various colors, green is basically nothing there. Yellow and red means there's transmitters there. We can see the varying strengths. That probably has to do with where the pack was with relation to the analyzer's antenna. And other times, this allows you to see things that pop up and then go away. We say, wait, something was just there. I wasn't imagining that. There was something that was there and now it's gone. And we can start to figure out what those things are by those types of patterns. Let's take a look at the topographic now. Okay, the topographic is basically a heat map, if you will. It kind of gives us a 3D visualization of what occurred in the spectrum over time. So it's a different way of looking at the information, and again, it helps us make good decisions about where we have room to put things and where we don't. The software also will do some pretty nifty calculations. If we take a look at the trace and intermod, we'll see a whole bunch of green dots with white lines beneath them.
Yes.
That's basically the software, almost instantly telling me, hey, it's okay to put stuff here. It's safe to put stuff there. Which is pretty wild, because not only do we have to worry about offending, conflicting frequencies in the space, but we also have to worry about harmonics, where one frequency and another frequency create, third order harmonics or something, that we start creating new frequencies that we didn't intend to create. And now we're using up more of our space than we had meant to. And this basically says, hey, these frequencies are safe. They're safe for interference and intermod, and that's really nice.
Wow.
It gives you, kind of instantly, you can pull some frequencies out of your back pocket, and that definitely wasn't always the case.
Now, Ben, do some of the higher end microphones that DJs can purchase, they have that ability, don't they, where they can scan and find open frequencies using somewhat similar technology?
Well, similar. They'll scan and find open frequencies, but they're not going to be able to calculate for intermod unless you're using other stuff within that brand and that group. For example, all of these wireless devices that are racked together are from the same manufacturer and in the same frequency band. Their group and channel settings are going to be intermod safe. And so you could do a scan there and find intermod-free frequencies within those. But this allows me to basically take any brand product, from any manufacturer and know that those frequencies are going to be safe to use. Again, depending on the width and that sort of thing. But
cool.
I was trying to run a live intermod analysis, but the scanning computer is unhappy about sharing its memory with Skype, apparently. So.
Well, that's okay. That's some pretty cool and pretty heavy stuff, but I think I've got it.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, I think the day is going to come when more DJs have analyzers like this. They're not terribly expensive. Just call me, I'll sell you one. But really, they used to be ridiculous amounts of money where it just wasn't practical, and they're really coming down. And I don't think everybody's going to rush and buy one tomorrow, but they're getting to a point where this is going to become a very useful tool. And certainly, even without the analyzer, it gives you the ability to see what's going on. And so when you go out and use your radio now, even the one you have today, you have a better understanding of what's going on in the spectrum and how different things are going to affect it. I actually thought about for this show building a little Faraday cage, a little wire screen box, and put this transmitting pack inside that wire screen box and watch it just basically disappear from the spectrum. Metal is terrible for radio waves. Water is terrible for radio waves. Those are things that aren't very good for them. And unfortunately, metal is used in building materials, and water is a large part of what we're made of. Now, there are ways around that. The U.S. Navy uses very, very low frequencies and very long antennas to talk to our submarines, for example. I don't recall. I'm just kind of pulling this out of recollection, but I think the antennas that are towed behind airplanes to communicate with our submarines are something along the lines of, some of them are up to like 5 miles long.
Oh, my.
Imagine a 5-mile wire sticking out the back of an airplane, but that's the antenna, and they're using that to communicate with our submarine fleet underwater.
Wow.
And just for fun, I found this in my bag, and I thought, gosh, if I'm doing this show, I'll just keep this. And it was just sort of a fun little thing that kind of hung around. I don't know if you can see it.
You can see some numbers on there. We see Fox.
Yeah. This, sometimes when things have to change, low-tech solutions to high-tech problems, a scrap of paper and a Sharpie, let the folks at Fox know what frequencies are going to work for them or whatever, notes taped on press box doors or things scribbled on your hand or scribbled on pads of paper and then some quick calculations on the computer, some quick text messages or whatever. It's maybe not quite as space age as we'd like it to be. Generally we have these coordinations done in advance. So before the event, we already have these coordinations. But again, sometimes things change, atmospheric conditions, or there's a TV tower that has a height above terrain that we didn't anticipate, or, some Yahoo shows up with something we can't figure out where it is. We just have to avoid it, so be it.
Yeah. A lot of variables in that world, I'm sure, that way.
There are, and like I said, unfortunately, I think the Wild West days are over. But I think they're going to get better too. We're looking at maybe the changing of an era, really, for wireless microphone technology, and the next great era might be just 10 years away, where the next evolution of technology we're already seeing within the UHF spectrum, 470 to 698. We're already seeing digital wirelesses come out. You don't have to have 2.4 to have digital, and we talked about that in another episode. 2.4 is tiny, and it's crowded, and I don't like it, but that's just me. So, UHF, we got this great big spectrum available to us, even with all the things that are in it. And, with these digital mics, we'll be able to pack them in a lot closer together. And there's other innovations. That's already now. That's happening right now. There's other innovations that are actually going to have to come as we want more devices to be wireless, and we want to do more in less space. And that's what the FCC is working on right here. I mean, there's a little light reading for you. This is the latest publication that they've put out on
how to kill a tree and
yeah, it's good for those of us who live in northern Minnesota. They selling a lot of paper, but this is they're looking at the future. They're saying, how do we accommodate broader bandwidths? How do we accommodate faster speeds for data and smartphones? How do we get Wi-Fi in rural areas not using 2.4? Where else can we go?
Yeah.
And how do we accommodate wireless microphones and, all the things we talked about, intercoms, IFPs, and all those sorts of things. And if you want to learn more about this and you're on the East Coast, you can actually come visit me live. The organization Snap DJ has me coming out to their All-Star event. The All-Stars are Big Daddy McKee and John Ross, and I'm like the warm-up band or something. But we're going to talk a little bit about wireless. We're going to talk about what the future of the 600 megahertz spectrum is, as best we know it. I'll be on hand. I'll probably bring my analyzer too if you just want to play. So check that out. I think it's snapdj.com. If you just Google snapdj.com, you'll find some information on that.
And I believe that was October 27th, if I'm not mistaken.
As a fine, outstanding member of the press, you are correct.
They can get you. Yeah, you can find them. I think they've got a Facebook page. You can check it out, though. There's a lot of great people, and it's a great networking night, even if you don't want to watch Ben play with his graphic.
What? Now, why? What? Wait a minute. Why wouldn't you?
I mean, everyone is there to see that. Big Daddy and John Ross are just there to plug his analyzer in. And
I have a confession to make on national TV here, or whatever you call it, YouTube, international, whatever. I am absolutely helplessly, hopelessly, head over heels, madly in love with Big Daddy McKee. If you don't know Sean McKee, you do not know one of the greatest human beings on this planet. I'm telling you.
Amen to that.
You know him. I'm a happily married man, but I am helplessly, hopelessly, head over heels, madly in love with Big Daddy McKee. He is a radiant personality that just lights up a room. And I'm going to see him in Vegas, and I'm really excited.
Yep, that's where we'll be next week. We'll be in Las Vegas, and we'll get to hang with Sean and just a plethora of really talented and fun individuals in our industry.
And I really hope my wife doesn't see this episode, by the way. Trust me, she gets enough of me even when I'm not home. She gets enough of me. She doesn't want to watch this.
She can just watch reruns. She can go to DJNTV.com and click on the Ben Stowe Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's like a Breaking Bad marathon. You can watch me for hours.
Yeah,
boy, Heisenberg's got nothing on me. I mean, I'd say, does Heisenberg have halfway of dipoles? No.
No. Does he have 17 antennas in his hand at once? No.
And I don't want to belittle John Ross, by the way. That man has, people think I'm a hyper guy, and I am a hyper guy. I'm a high energy guy. I can't keep up with him. That man has a motor that is just unbelievable. So, in addition to me, which is reason enough to go to Snap DJ, I think, you're going to see two of the most outstanding human beings our industry has ever produced.
That's for sure. That is for sure. And people can find that on Facebook. Search Google. You can find those links and such to the Snap DJ event in October. Well, Ben,
and decipher this for you.
Yeah, no deciphering. We need to wrap things up. We don't have enough time to dot the I's and cross the T's, or cross the T's and dot the I's, whatever it is. Ben, thank you much for a walk down wireless frequency antennas. The only thing we didn't get is a song from the 1970s.
You ain't getting it now.
If you have any comments, questions, thoughts, you got something you want to ask Ben Stowe, go to Twitter, #NLFXBen. You can use the @NLFXBen. Go out to Facebook. He's there. You can send him a message. Go to the NLFX Pro website. You can send him a message there. If you're in northern Minnesota, he's got to be the biggest thing up there, I'm pretty sure.
Chances are I'm not here, though.
So. That's probably true, but then you can see Kat, and Kat gets she can get a lot of answers. Ben, thank you very much for your time tonight, and we will see you next week in Las Vegas.
Thanks, John.
This is John Young with Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Good night.